Welcome back to episode 3 of this Adobe Express tutorial, a beginner's guide to getting you set up and getting you running and getting everything sorted inside of Adobe Express, who are the sponsors of this series also. Now, if you're new here, my name is Darren, I'm an Adobe Express ambassador, and I kind of like guiding you through getting set up in this series that I'm creating. If you haven't checked out any of the other episodes in this series so far, I'll link them all down in the description below, and they're also easy to and free to access over on my website. But all of the details are down in the description, including a 30-day trial to try Adobe Express. Now today we're looking at brand kits and getting set up with your brand kit and then applying that to a template. Now let's get in and get started and show you how to get this set up. Now, as always, we're starting off on the Adobe Express homepage, and here we'll see this little option here called More. If we click on these three dots, we can see here we've actually got brands. Now this is where we're going to set up our brand kit. You can see here I've got one here that I've set up called Adobe Coffee. Now this is based on a fictional coffee shop. It's basically Adobe and an artisan coffee, which I felt was quite funny, and you know, I've created a few videos about this and how I set these up, and you can check those out on my channel. But we've got our logo, we've got our colors, we've got our fonts, and we've got some graphics. But how do we get this set up? We're going to come back to the homepage, we're going to click brands and create brand, and we're going to click manual setup. Now you can extract this from an upload and it'll pull out colors from your logo and fonts from your logo or anything else like that you've got. But I'm going to click on manual setup, and this is where we're going to set up our brand kit. So I'm going to do another copy and version of Adobe Coffee. So we're going to call it Adobe Coffee Test. Okay, now there's a couple of places where you can actually set this up. You can see beforehand we've got our personal storage, which is us as a user. That kind of like sits in our side. But we can also save this to a project as well. So beforehand we've looked at this, I think it was in episode 2 where we were looking at projects. No, it wasn't, it was under episode 1 actually, where we're looking at projects under your stuff. So you can see here we've got our projects. Now I could add this to my better content creators and it applies that to the brand, and I can then share this brand kit with somebody else that is part of that project. So we're going to click on just personal storage for this one because I don't want or need to share it to anybody else. But you can see here where you can share it. You can click on this little eye or hover over this little eye and it'll give you the details there. So we're going to click on create. Now we're in here, we've got a very blank looking screen. It's kind of like, where do we get started? So you can see if we go to the top left hand corner, we can always come back to the navigation where we can come back to our brands. We can see we've got our test brand kit here. We've got the three dots up here where we can then share it. We can also rename it, link it to a particular project if we wanted to. We can create a copy of a brand kit, move it or delete it or use as a library. Now I like to just keep these things as a brand kit, but that's where we can actually do those. You can also create your brand kit up here. So you can create your brand up by clicking up here. You can click filter and click and find brands that might have been shared with you or projects or are public, and you can also change the order. So we're going to go back into this and we're going to start adding in our elements to build up this brand kit. Now to add in our stuff, we can either click on add here, we can also click add up at the top, we can also add in users if we wanted to, and we can tell it, the system, who we want to have access. So all I'm going to do is I've actually got this on a separate screen just at the side here. So I'm going to just drag this in. You can see you can add in AI files, which means Adobe Illustrator, not artificial intelligence. We've got JPEG, JPG, PNG, PSD or SVG files. We can add all of those in here as our logo. So we can just drop that in there, and that's going to then upload our logo for us. And then within a few moments, we've now got our logo, and we can actually assign this. So if we've got different logos, logo marks, we can actually give this a particular profile, so we can use it as a graphic if we wanted to, and that would actually change it and move it to the graphics area. We can edit its role, and this is where we can then, as I say, if you've got different, like a main logo and then word marks and other things like that, so you can set it as a primary logo or as a secondary logo. Now the primary one is going to be the logo that then gets applied when you start applying brand kits and things like that. It's the one that gets used most of the time, but you can also add it as a secondary logo. That might also be a black and white or something like that logo. So now we've got our logo. As you can see, we're under that overview here. We can click on logos and we've got one logo in here. That's great. But now we want colors. So we can add our colors. Okay, from here we can create a color palette, and then all we need to do is we just click save. It's a little bit of a quirk on there at the moment. Click save, and then now we can actually add in these hex codes. So I've got a couple of hex codes here where I've got them saved off to the side. So we can just paste that in there, click enter on our keyboard, and you can see that then starts adding them in. I'm going to add in each of those. So we come over, click save, come back, click on it, and then we can click and add the next hex code that we want to actually add in here. So just highlighting this, clicking paste, clicking enter on the keyboard, we can see it comes through, and then we can click save. Now you can also choose from swatches, and you can choose from custom. So if you wanted to, you can choose like things like this, but I like to know if we've got a brand, we've got a particular hex code that we want to use. Okay, we're going to click on save on that. Now you will notice on the bottom here, it's actually got the hex code, and it's got this little squares next to it. Now what that means is you can actually copy it, and actually copy it to the clipboard. So if you're wanting to come and grab your color palette from here and paste it into somewhere else, or use the hex code somewhere else, you can come to your color palette or your brand area inside of Adobe Express and easily copy each of these in here for that. So we can just come in, as I say, click save. I've got some more kind of like hex codes that I've got over here. I'm not going to add them all in. We're just using this and doing this as a demo. So we come in, enter, and then now that has got our brand kit in here. And then we're just going to click add, and we can give it a name, so you can have multiple color palettes inside of a brand kit. So if you had a different brand kit for a particular project that you were working on for some reason and you wanted to do that, you can actually add multiple brand kits in here. So we're just going to go through, and I'm going to add in the rest of these colors and then come back to you. And we'll see there, now we've actually got all of our brand kit set up. Now one of the things I like to do is click on the three dots here, and we actually create a duplicate of this, and that then gives us a backup if for any reason anything goes wrong with one of the templates. So if I was coming in here, let's say, and editing it for some reason one day, I'd come in, edit, and this is where we can then grab these items here. But if for some reason I ended up knocking it off and creating an incorrect color and clicking save, I would have to, I could then come back and I've got my backup template or my backup brand kit colors inside of here. Now next we've got on here, we've got fonts, and this is, again, it's really simple. We can click add fonts here, or we can click add fonts up here. We can see we can actually, using this top right hand corner one, we can actually jump to each of the other options, and then we can also, as I say, click to actually share this brand kit if we wanted to. But we're going to click add fonts, and these are the I think there's like 30,000 Adobe fonts that you can search for. So you're going to come in here and search for those fonts that you actually want to use. So I'm going to go in and choose some. Let's say we wanted to, okay, so we're going to click and add our fonts, and you can see that then starts adding our fonts, and we can actually then again change the role of this to be whether it's going to be a header, a body, or none. So that's where you can kind of like add in extra fonts, and you can also choose and edit different styles. So if this had a different font weighting, you can choose and add different font weightings in there. So let's have a look. So this one here, which has actually got 11, if you click on just the top, it will add all 11 to there. But if we wanted to just choose the one, we would actually just choose the one, and that's going to then edit that particular font. It's because I've changed it, it's actually editing and changing the font to actually now be this one. So now we go in and we add all of our fonts in here, and that will be then ready to use as a brand kit. Next, we're going to come on to graphics. Now, this is where for me, myself, I tend to put a lot of like images of me for my thumbnails in here, or graphics that I'm going to use on a regular basis. Maybe that's something that I want to use as a background when I'm creating Instagram posts or something else like that. I can put all those sorts of graphics in here, and again, all we're going to do is we're going to click on upload graphics or drag and drop them in here. So if I just grab a couple of images that I've got off screen here, so where have we got, let's say we've got this one here, which is a mock-up that I created. We can just drag that in here, and then that becomes part of the graphics options in here. So we can put all of those images in here and start creating a library. Now, this is part of your brand kit, so you don't want to kind of like overpopulate this. These are going to be graphics that you want to have as part of your brand kit that you're going to want to use on a regular basis. As I say, for me, it's kind of like background grids and things like that I want to use as maybe overlays on my thumbnails. You see, sometimes I have like a little bit of a grungy look to some of my thumbnails, so I put those things in here, and also regular images of myself. In fact, let's pop into my brand kit and I'll actually show you what that looks like. So you can see here, this is where I've got of different logos. You can see I've actually got different logo marks on here. Okay, we can come over, we can choose and see I've got my different color palettes. You can see now I've also put in here, and this is where you'll be able to add in your brand kits options. So you can see I've got 2 header options and I've got a body option. So if a template has got text that's actually assigned as a header, it'll assign one of these 2 items here for that header text. And then under graphics, we can see here they've got like images of me that I will use on a regular basis, the backdrop of my office here, and then also I've got a logo in here. This is where I was just moving and testing, moving it around. We can see here I can actually move this and move this to another part of the template options here, or reassign that. So I think that one we need to use as a, not as a, yeah, it's a logo. So you'd switch that to use as a logo, and it'll then move that to the logo area. Now in here, as I say, we've got images of me that I use on a regular basis, and also we've got this background option, which is my better content creators that I use on a regular basis, and then some more images of me where I might want to cut them out. But that's getting your brand kit set up, and next in episode 4 we can actually look at opening up and creating your first template, and then actually applying your brand kit. So if you've not done so already, click like and subscribe down below. I'll put all of the future episodes down in the description below as well, and they're in a playlist and also over on my website. So when I do publish those, they will be freely available, and they're all going to be published within the next couple of weeks of this video going live. So it'll be out in a couple of days if you're watching this within the first few days of it going out, but they're all down there in the description and on my website, which will be linked in the description below. If you've got any questions on this or any other episodes so far, or anything to do with Adobe Express, drop that down in the comments below. And until next time, thank you very much, and bye for now.